Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Mordy and Glory video. In today's episode, we shall be continuing our analysis of the 10th edition Imperial Guard Index. And it is an exciting time because we shall be reviewing our first Militarum Tempestus unit. I did think about starting with the Scions themselves, but I've been in a little bit of a vehicle mood, a bit of a tanky mood recently, and so I decided to start with the biggest model, and maybe we'll work our way down. I am, of course, talking about the one, the only, the Taurox Prime. This speedy little runaround is an enhanced version of the regular Taurox used by the Astra Militarum. It has been upgunned and improved to make it the perfect light assault vehicle of the Scions, allowing the Glory Boys to plunge right into the heart of the enemy and deliver precision strikes. But the big question is, has it managed the translation from 9th edition to 10th? Will it survive in the new 40k? Well, there's only one way for us to find out. It's time for us to sanction some elimination protocols and grab shoot right into today's episode. As is tradition, we shall begin with a very brief overview of what the hell the Taurox Prime actually is. As is tradition, we shall begin with a brief overview of the unit in question. Typically, Scions will choose to strike the enemy either out of the back of a Valkyrie, fast roping down, or grab shooting into a gap where they can widen it and exploit it. But sometimes this isn't an option. Perhaps the enemy's got too much air cover. Maybe the terrain doesn't allow for it. In these circumstances, they turn to the Taurox Prime. It is their light assault rapid reaction vehicle. It allows them to maintain the initiative, to keep up the speed, violence, and momentum that are quintessential to a Scion assault. In this way, the opponent is always left reeling and wrong-footed. However, this speed and firepower does come at the cost of durability. And as is fairly normal for Scion units, the Taurox Prime can be considered a glass hammer. But that is the fluff. What about the crunch? How does all of this translate onto the tabletop? Well, let's dive into the datasheet now, and we'll begin by reviewing that stat line. The Taurox Prime has a movement value of 12. This actually puts it above a lot of other guard vehicles who have had their average movement brought down to 10 inches. It's not a huge boost, but just when it might matter, those couple of extra inches could win you the game. You could just get onto that objective. You could just get into rapid fire range. It might just make the difference. And hey, it's a free extra couple of inches, not much to turn your nose up at. Unfortunately, the Taurox Prime is only toughness 8. This is an Achilles heel. It makes the vehicle very fragile, and this only gets worse when you combine it with the 3+ save and 10 wounds. Even things like plasma, which aren't meant to be good against vehicles this edition, are going to have no issue with burning holes through Taurox Primes. And melter guns and autocannons are going to completely shred this thing. And we round out the stat line with a leadership of 7+ and an OC of 2, which is pretty standard. In summary, it's kind of like what I said in the overview. The Taurox Prime is fast, but it is fragile. But let's see what kind of firepower it's bringing to the board. As standard, each Taurox Prime comes equipped with a Taurox battle cannon, a twin Taurox hotshot volley gun, and armored tracks. You can swap out the Taurox battle cannon with a Gatling cannon or a Taurox missile launcher. You can also swap out the Taurox hotshot volley guns for twin autocannons. This model can also be equipped with a Storm Bolter, but it can't have a heavy stubber and it can't take hunter-killer missiles either. But let's begin with the Taurox battle cannon. It is blast, 48-inch range, D6 shots, a ballistic skill 3+. Now let's just stop there for a moment. Most other guard vehicles come with ballistic skill 4+. This even includes the mighty Baneblade, and the only way you get them to hit good is with order support. That's kind of like a hidden tax that you have to take into account when you're considering the price of those vehicles. Taurox Prime doesn't need orders to support it. All of its weapons hit on a 3+ in shooting. So you can get it up to hitting on a 2+ with take aim, but honestly, I would just use the Taurox as a self-contained thing. It doesn't need any support, and as a result, it's perfectly happy running around just looking after itself, and those orders can go somewhere else. There's no hidden cost with the Taurox Prime, you just pay the base amount. Coming back to the weapon. So it's 48-inch range, D6 attacks, ballistic skill 3+, strength 8, AP -1, damage 2. I'm not a fan of the D6 shots. The lie, that's kind of swingy, but blast does mitigate that somewhat. It means when you're shooting against infantry, even just a unit of marines, you're going to be D6 +1. If it starts going into some big horde squads, big blobs of termagants, you could see D6 +4, and that makes it eminently reliable. So the Taurox Battle Cannon, I was gonna give it the thumbs down, because I really don't like D6 shots weapons, but I'm gonna give it a pass. I actually think it's a pretty decent weapon system. It's much improved over its previous iterations. I think it was either 8th or 9th edition, it fired like D3 shots at strength 7. It was just not a good gun. This time around, it's got more shots, it has ways of getting those shots to be reliable, and it's also stronger, and it has maintained AP -1 in an edition where a lot of other things have had their AP taken away from them. After this, we have my traditional favorite option, the Taurox Gatling Cannon. I love the Dakadorm. I love all of the Gatling cannons. I just love shooting loads and loads of dice. I'm a little bit of an orc player at heart, so the more Daka the better. The more dice I can roll, the happier I am. Unfortunately, I think the sun is beginning to set on the Taurox Gatling Cannon. I'm not sure it's a particularly good weapon this time around. It's a 24-inch range, 12 shot, strength 4, AP 0, damage 1 gun. In 8th edition, it had 20 shots. I expected it to get twin linked, and it didn't, because there are 2 chain gun barrels on the model. 12 shots just isn't all that much. Strength 4, in an edition where things are becoming more mechanized, just doesn't cut the mustard. And AP 0, damage 1, yeah. Sadly, I don't think I can recommend the Taurox Gatling Cannon. It's still by far the coolest turret option in my mind, and aesthetically very badass, but competitively I don't think it has much of a place in the Guard army or in the Scion army at the moment. Then we have the Taurox Missile Launcher. Now before we go any further, I need to address an important point. If you look at your physical data card, it says that the frag of the missile launcher is strength 8. This is a typo. It's been confirmed as a typo by GW. They have corrected it in an errata. It should be updated on the app. So please don't be going into battle and trying to do strength 8 frag missiles. That's not a thing anymore. Okay? Okay. So the Taurox Missile Launcher is frag. It has blast, which is nice. You guys know I think very highly of blast. 48-inch range, which is good. 2d6, little swingy, but blast and the fact it's 2d6 does give it a bit of mitigation there. Ballistic skill 3+, strength 4, AP 0, damage 1. Now if you're taking this with the idea of using the blast option, I think that's the wrong way of looking at it. On average, the blast will get 7 shots, even if you put it into a really big unit of light infantry, like Guard or Bugs, you're only going to get +4. So on average, your frag blast missile will get 11 shots. In that case, why not just take the Gatling Cannon? And we've already said the Gatling Cannon's not that good, right? So I think the reason to take the Taurox Missile Launcher is the Crack Rocket. 48-inch range, 2 shots, ballistic skill 3+, strength 9, AP -2, and D6 damage. Now I like the consistent number of shots. I actually really like the fact that they didn't make it twin linked, because 1 shot, even with rerolls to wound, I don't think would have been worth it. I like the strength 9. I think AP 2 is very spicy. D6 damage, a little swingy. I'm not so hot on that. You just know at the worst possible moment you're going to roll a 1. I still have a little bit of shell shock from the time at the last tournament of the 8th edition Codex for the Guard, when I was running all these Demarche accounts. I just kept rolling 1s and 2s in the damage all week, and it absolutely just frustrated me. So because of that, I really do not believe in the D6 damage. It's okay if you have them built with missile launchers. It's fine. I think it will add some supplementary anti-tank to your army, but I prefer flat damage weapons. The D6 is really a big negative for me. So as crazy as this sounds, I can't help but feel like the best option out of these turret weapons is the Taurox battle cannon. I know, I am shocked. I've been collecting Guard, I've been collecting Scions for decades, and the battle cannon was always the worst option on the Taurox, but now it's good. D6 shots is a problem, but blast more than makes up for it. The difference between strength 8 and strength 9 is negligible, because at that point you're starting to break into armor, and most armor you're going to be wounding on 5s anyway, whether it's strength 8 or strength 9. Sure, there is less AP, but Guard has plenty of ways of mitigating that. You've got Fields of Fire, you've got Creed who lets you do it twice, you've got Lemurus Exterminators, so you can support this lack of AP easily with units you were already taking. And damage 2 versus damage D6, yeah, okay. Obviously, damage D6 has the potential to do a lot more, but damage 2 is always going to be damage 2. So for me, I think it's kind of dealer's choice. I'm personally leaning towards the Taurox battle cannon, but if I saw someone running a bunch with the missile launchers, I wouldn't fault that, and I probably wouldn't tell them to change. Either option is pretty good, but the Gatling cannon is the one to avoid this time round. We then get to the side guns of the Taurox, and this is where you can pick between the twin autocannon or the twin Taurox hotshot volley gun. Now, in the past, I've been a big fan of that hotshot volley gun, but that was because it paired really well with the Gatling cannon, and we were in a more infantry-heavy meta. Now, the Gatling cannon is not a great option, and we're going to a mechanized meta. I think a lot of what I said about the Gatling cannon kind of applies to the volley gun, but we'll go through its stat line for the sake of completeness. Rapid Fire 3, twin linked. It has a 30-inch range, 3 attacks, so up close and personal, 15 inches, it will have 6 attacks. Ballistic skill 3+, strength 4, AP -1, 1 damage. It's not a bad weapon by any stretch of the imagination, and I think if you wanted to put it on there to add a little bit more anti-infantry, it's fine. I think the extra AP really does separate it from the Gatling cannon, really does give it a lot to be happy about. I'm slightly annoyed it's twin linked. I think I would have preferred if it had 2 separate hotshot volley guns. I don't know if that's just me, but I like the idea of it having 12 shots. Maybe if it had 12 shots and a Stormbolter and a Gatling cannon, we can get back to the Dakar Primes of old. But I just don't think there is enough volume coming out of the Dakar Prime anymore. If you're a long-time viewer of the channel, the summary of this video basically is that I think the Dakar Prime has finally been superseded by the Punchy Prime. But speaking of the Punchy Prime, let's have a look at the twin autocannon. This weapon actually benefits from being twin linked, because not only does it have a 48-inch range, not only has it got 2 shots, ballistic skill 3+, but it's also strength 9, AP -1, damage 3. Autocannons very much are in the ascendancy right now. On their own, they're good at taking on anything, but twin linked only enhances this. It means if you're shooting against infantry, you've got just the volume, especially when you combine it with something like the Taurox battle cannon, to be able to deal with that. And you've got the strength and the AP to be able to cut through the armor or knock down an armor save to an invulnerable save. And you've got the consistent damage with the twin autocannon, where even a Terminator will get insta-splattered if you sneak a wound through. But because of twin linked, it means that yes, you only wound most vehicles on 5s, but you get a couple of extra goes if you fail. So suddenly, that makes it semi-reliable anti-vehicle. Because if you sneak a wound past a vehicle, you go do 3 damage to it. Often that's going to be 25%, a quarter of its health just taken off in one go. And if you get both through, a Taurox Prime, just with its twin autocannon, could halve the wounds on a lot of enemy units. I actually think the Taurox battle cannon and the twin autocannon are really, really good together now, and that would be my recommended loadout for this vehicle. But that covers the range weapons. I'll briefly mention the melee ones. It has armored tracks. If you've seen these on Chimeras and regular Tauroxes, are the same thing. 3 attacks, weapon skill 4+, strength 6, AP 0, damage 1. Vehicles in general have gotten a lot better in combat, but they still don't belong there. Just because you now hit on 4s doesn't mean you should be charging down Angron with your Taurox Prime. Keep it out of combat, keep it firing, keep it hitting hard, and keep it mobile. That's the best kind of way of using a Taurox Prime. And if there's one wound that you need to chip off, maybe charge. And if you happen to get wrapped in combat and you run someone over, it's a nice to have. But don't be thinking of these as combat units, and don't be trying to get them in outside of exceptional circumstances. But now let us move on to the abilities. And one of the things that separates the Taurox platform from the Chimera is that it does not have a firing deck. This is a little bit of a shame. In its original incarnation, I believe in either 5th or 6th edition, the Taurox and Taurox Prime did have the ability for people to shoot out of it. You see there's a couple of little firing slots next to the driver's cabin. That's where guardsmen were meant to shoot out, but it went away in 8th edition and it never came back, which is a bit of a shame really. So no firing deck does mean it has a bit of a disadvantage versus the Chimera, which can have a las cannon or an autocannon or something else shooting out the back of it. But fortunately, the Taurox Prime makes up for this with a fantastic unique ability, fire support. In your shooting phase, after this model has shot, select one enemy unit that was hit by one or more of those attacks. Until the end of the phase, each time a friendly model that disembarked from the transport this turn makes an attack that targets that enemy unit, you can reroll the wound roll. This is an awesome ability because it allows you to give full rerolls to wound to a unit of Scions. This is something they've not been able to do against any target before. We used to have something called an Elimination Protocol Sanctioned, which gave you full rerolls to wound against monsters and vehicles, but that was it. And we've had like reroll 1s to wound, like bring it down orders and stuff like that. But now we have full rerolls to wound, thanks to Taurox Prime, against any target. And speaking of Scions, this pairs amazingly well with the Tempest of Scions' own special ability, Stormtroopers, which gives them reroll 1s all the time and also gives them full rerolls to hit when shooting an enemy unit on an objective. If you take a unit of Scions and you put them in a Taurox Prime and you drive them up to an objective and you get out and you want to just clear that thing away, you're going to have full rerolls to hit, full rerolls to wound. That's a blistering amount of firepower and you don't even need orders. This is what I like about all these rerolls that the Scions have. Not only does it make their weapons like melters and plasma, stuff that they traditionally rely upon to bust tanks, actually still be able to bust tanks, despite the fact that a lot of vehicles have gone up in toughness over 10th edition to the point where those weapons struggle. That's not a thing anymore. Full rerolls all the way, amazing. But it also means that you don't need to rely upon orders. That age-old problem of Scions deep striking in and not getting orders, jumping out of transports and not getting orders. All of these things just aren't a problem anymore. Just resolved. Scions don't need orders. They're running around with all the buffs that they need and they don't even need an officer to pull it off. If you get orders on your Scions now, it's a nice to have, but it's definitely not mandatory. But wait, there's more! Because you guys know I like a bargain. I'm a sucker for a good deal. And the Taurox Prime, oh baby, it's an absolute steal. 90 points. 9-0. Only 5 points more than a Chimera. I don't think these units have ever been pointed so closely before. Taurox Primes have been 100 plus points for as long as I can remember. Now it's coming in at sub 100 and way sub 100. It really is an absolute bargain. It's really, really good. And what I like about this is it means that even though your Scion squads have gone up a little bit from 100 to 120 points, that discount is being found elsewhere. That points cost is being brought down with the Prime. Honestly, I can't help but feel like mechanized, motorized Scions is the way to play them this edition. Lots of cheap transports with heavily buffed up squads running around independently. And thanks to the fact that Scions can now take armor like tanks and Leman Russes and Rogaldorns and also artillery, just have all your motorized infantry running around, just supported by some indirect fire support. I'm going to be doing a full video on a deep dive on Scions after I've played a few games with them, but I can't help but feel like Scions are in a really good position to start at 10th. Got good infantry, as we'll see in a future review. Their transports are cheap, spammable, with great force multiplier abilities, and they've got access to a whole roster of stuff. The future is looking bright for the Scions, and the Taurox Prime is definitely part of that future. Of course, all of this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Are you Team Dakka Prime, or are you Team Punchy Prime? If you've enjoyed today's video, don't forget to smash that like button, and of course, subscribe to never miss an episode. And I just want to say, if you found today's video particularly helpful or informative, then please consider becoming a channel member or Patreon supporter. By supporting the channel, you will not only be helping me create more content, but unlocking loads of perks for yourself, including access to the Mordian Glory Discord server. This is an online community with over 2,000 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We have got channels for army lists, tactics, hobbying, painting, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. And I just want to take a moment to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing. You truly are the lifeblood of this channel, and I could not do Mordian Glory full-time without your generous support. And last, but certainly not least, I want to say a personal, special, heartfelt thank you to all of my top tier supporters. These are the War Masters, the people that have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a massive thank you to Bonbon Vert, Ken Starr, Mark Panconi, Swordfish Trombone, John Stubbs, Nicholas Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Barney. Thank you guys. Your ongoing and incredibly generous support makes a huge difference, and I am eternally grateful to each and every single one of you. I hope you all enjoyed today's video. Thank you for watching, and of course, as always, I'll see you guys next time.